Succubi are among the most enigmatic and alluring figures in mythology. In some sources, they are called demons, in others, spirits of the night, and in still others, the embodied shadows of human desires. But where does the legend end and the symbol begin? The word succubus comes from the Latin _succubere_, to lie beneath, which, in the context of ancient beliefs, indicates not only a physical position but also a subduing, mesmerizing influence. These entities do not arrive with thunder and fire, they emerge quietly, slipping into dreams, into thoughts, into those corners of consciousness that a person usually hides from themselves. According to legends, succubi possess extraordinary allure. Their beauty is not loud but deep and captivating. It's not just appearance, it's something more, a way of moving, a gaze, a slight tilt of the head that seems to invite but does not promise. They subtly perceive what a person is not always aware of themselves, their weakness, longing, fantasy. It is believed that a succubus feeds not on flesh but on the power that emanates from desire. And the victim gives it willingly, often even with gratitude. After an encounter with such a being, a person feels not horror but a strange emptiness and languor, like after a too vivid dream that cannot be held onto. It's important to understand, a succubus is not just a demon, it is a reflection. An image in which the most secret aspirations and fears come to life. It does not pursue, it waits, and appears when it has already been involuntarily summoned. One of the most unexpected aspects of succubus mythology is their relationship to the concept of gender. Despite the appearance traditionally described as female, in ancient texts, these beings are often referred to in the masculine, _succubus_, not _succubar_. This causes bewilderment but also pushes towards an important conclusion. We are not simply dealing with a female-type character but something more complex, fluid, inhuman. Demons in such myths are entities devoid of clear forms. They take on the guise that will be most convincing, most desired. And if a man can be seduced by the image of a woman, that is precisely the form that will be used. But this is merely a shell, a mask, an external illusion. In some interpretations, the succubus appears as a metamorphic creature, capable of being feminine, masculine, and genderless, depending on the situation and the needs of the victim. This fluidity is not accidental. It reflects the very essence of evil in myths, its inconstancy, its ability to mimic, adapt, and penetrate where it is not expected. The appearance of a succubus is always perfect, but not ideal. Often, there is something in its features that makes the heart skip a beat, pupils that are too elongated, fingers that are too slender, a slight asymmetry of the face. This is not ugliness but, on the contrary, excessive beauty bordering on the unnatural. And it is precisely this that evokes in a person a disturbing mixture of attraction and apprehension. Can a succubus be considered a woman? Yes, if it helps to understand its nature. But it would be more accurate to say, it is a reflection of desire. And desire has no gender. It has power. The appearance of a succubus is not just a beautiful shell. It is a tool. Subtle, precisely calculated, created not for battle but for attraction. Legends describe these beings as young women with perfect figures, flawless skin, and eyes in which one can easily drown. But it's not just about looks. The main thing is the effect. A succubus is not merely attractive. It evokes desire without giving either certainty or peace. In ancient and medieval descriptions, recurring details can be found: long hair flowing over the shoulders, thin garments, semi-transparent, as if woven from mist. Sometimes, a complete absence of clothing, but without vulgarity. Their nudity is not aggressive, it is natural, like moonlight or a breath of wind. Over time, demonic features were added to their image. Dark, webbed wings. Horns gracefully curving from the temples. Sometimes, clawed hands or traces of hooves instead of feet. These details emphasize their belonging to another world. A succubus is not just a woman, it is a mask of something ancient, cold, and alien. Interestingly, all these features were perceived not as repulsive but as additionally arousing the imagination. It is precisely the combination of beauty and horror, grace and distortion, that makes the succubus so dangerous. It incorporates the archetypes of two images at once, the desired and the forbidden. And the stronger its power becomes. A succubus is never in a hurry. It does not pursue, it is present. Its seduction is anticipation, understatement, that slight movement that seems accidental but is actually calculated down to the smallest detail. When a person encounters a succubus, they do not just see a beautiful face. They see what they lack. And this cannot always be called a safe revelation. To understand the nature of the succubus, it is worth turning to the most ancient mythological systems. The image of the demonic seductress was not born in the Middle Ages, its roots go back to the culture of the Sumerians and Akkadians, long before the emergence of Christian demonology. There, entities called _Lilith existed. These were nocturnal spirits, shadow women who came to people in their sleep. Sometimes to seduce. Sometimes to harm. Lilith were associated with loneliness, with unfulfilled motherhood, with a tragic, unrealized life. According to legends, these were the souls of women who died young, without family, without children, without completing their journey. And perhaps this is the key to their thirst to touch the living. For men, Lilith were dangerous, they weakened the body and will. For women, even more terrifying, they brought unrest to mothers in childbirth, could snatch a baby, or inflict illness. This image existed outside of morality, it was not evil but uncontrollable, elemental. This is how legends are born about spirits who were not destined to become fully human. Over time, Lilith began to be endowed with the features of goddesses. Especially Ishtar and Ereshkigal, sisters symbolizing two beginnings, love and death. Both were associated with the underworld and night, both wore wings, bird claws, and decorations resembling snake patterns in their depictions. And it is this image that formed the basis of future succubi, beautiful, dangerous, belonging to both heaven and hell. It can be said that the succubus is an evolution of ancient fear. Fear of what comes at night. Of what cannot be explained. And, at the same time, of what we ourselves unconsciously strive for, the touch of a shadow. The name Lilith is one of the oldest and most controversial in demonological sources. She appears at the intersection of cultures, in Sumerian, Jewish, and early Christian traditions. And each time, as an image of a woman who has gone beyond what is permitted. Her story became the basis for the formation of an entire class of beings known as succubi. According to later Jewish tradition, Lilith was Adam's first wife. But unlike Eve, created from his rib, Lilith was equal, created from the same earth as he was. This equality became the cause of conflict. Lilith refused to submit, left Eden, and chose freedom, even if it led her to loneliness, exile, and demonization. Subsequently, Lilith's mythological portrait grew more and more detailed. She became associated with nocturnal abductions, with the death of newborns, with restless dreams. But at the same time, with an alluring, almost hypnotic power. The one who left but remained in memory. The one who was feared and awaited. It is Lilith who, in a number of sources, is called the mother of all succubi. This metaphor is not accidental. Succubi inherited from her the main thing, the refusal to be submissive. They do not simply come to a person, they remind them of the internal struggle between duty and desire, between prohibition and choice. Some texts say that Lilith, being exiled, made an alliance with forces hostile to God. From that moment on, she began to give birth not to humans but to spirits, beings that feed on the power and attention of those who succumb to temptation. And this is how the concept of the demonic nature of seduction appears. It does not destroy directly, it leads to loss through voluntary weakness. It is important to understand that Lilith is not a villain in the usual sense. Her image is a cultural reflection of the fear of a strong and independent female figure. And in this sense, the succubus is not just her daughter but her continuation. The shadow of the one who once said, no. Unlike many other mythological creatures, succubi do not feed on flesh or blood. Their main goal is not physical destruction but slow exhaustion. Myths and legends emphasize that these demons hunt for energy. And not just any energy, but a special kind, related to life force, to inner fire, to what makes a person alive and thinking. It was believed that after an encounter with a succubus, a person would begin to feel weakness, lethargy, and a loss of interest in life. Often, this happened imperceptibly, as if someone invisible was slowly extinguishing the light from within. Some stories describe how victims would fall asleep vigorous and full of energy, and wake up with a feeling of deep fatigue, as if they had lived a whole life in their dreams. It is important to note that the succubus's feeding is not aggression but an exchange, albeit a one-sided one. The person gives their power themselves, captivated, mesmerized, deceived. It seems to them that they are receiving something in return: pleasure, intimacy, the illusion of understanding. But all this is just a way to make them open up and give more. This principle makes the succubus particularly dangerous. Its victim rarely realizes what is happening to them. They do not feel fear, they feel attraction. And when the exhaustion becomes noticeable, there is no turning back. Some treatises mention that succubi choose tasty prey, people with a pronounced will, strong character, inner fire. It is their energy that is most saturated. To take possession of such a person is not only food but also a kind of trophy. A succubus is not a predator in the usual sense. It is a creature that evokes in a person the desire to become a victim themselves. And therein lies the main threat. Medieval legends, monastic chronicles, and knightly ballads often mention encounters with mysterious women who came in the night. And almost always, these encounters ended the same way, with confusion, weakening, and spiritual downfall. But why were monks and knights the main targets of succubi's attention? The answer lies in symbolism. Both the knight and the monk are figures associated with the idea of heroism, self-control, vows, and voluntary renunciation of the sensual. This is precisely what makes them particularly interesting to a demon whose power is based on temptation. The higher the height from which one can be dropped, the louder the fall will be. For a monk, the succubus becomes a test of faith. It appears not as an obvious enemy but as doubt, as a dream in which there is no sin, but there is desire. Medieval texts describe many cases where monks, after such encounters, lost interest in their service, fell into despondency, and lost their health. The demon does not force them to renounce their vows, it simply leaves a shadow in them that grows over time. The knight, on the other hand, is a figure of strength and valor. He is used to winning in battle, but he is not prepared for an encounter with an enemy without a sword. The succubus penetrates thoughts, entices, teases, without engaging in direct confrontation. And when the conqueror becomes conquered, the demon defeats not only the body but also the symbol. Those who sincerely strived for ideals were considered particularly valuable prey. It is no coincidence that the motif often repeated in legends is that the succubus chooses the strong. Not because it is easy, but because it is difficult. Victory over such a person brings the demon glory in its world and confirms the power of desire over duty. These stories were not just scary tales. They served as a warning. Even the purest, strongest, and most noble are vulnerable, especially if they do not recognize their own weakness. And the succubus, like a mirror, always reflects what a person does not want to see in themselves. The image of the succubus is not just a legend about a nocturnal demon. It is an archetype in which fear, attraction, and internal prohibitions are intertwined. It appeared long before Christianity, grew in detail over the centuries, but still remains relevant today. Not because anyone seriously believes in demons, but because humans continue to face what lures and destroys. The succubus does not always live in a fairy tale. It can take forms that come in dreams. It can be a voice that suggests taking a step beyond the edge. Or it can simply be a reflection of what we lack but are afraid to admit. Stories about succubi are not a lesson in mysticism. They are a warning about how easy it is to give in when temptation looks harmless, and about how important it is to know the boundaries of one's own will, so as not to become a victim of one's own shadows.